Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Thursday, July 2nd, 2026. I'm hoping that you're safe and healthy and that your family is safe and healthy and that the needs of you and your family in terms of food, shelter, clothing, as well as health are being met today. Blessings upon those that work in the area of health, along with first responders who are always doing their best to save lives. Those also that pick up garbage to keep our places clean. Those that make deliveries for our convenience. Double blessings on the men and women trying to help rescue, deliver, and recover the children and teenagers that are the victims of child molestation and pedophilia. Those helping the people that are victims of prostitution, victims of child prostitution, victims of pornography, victims of child pornography, victims of human trafficking, victims of sex slavery. Double curses on the perpetrators, the profiteers, and the perverts that create the demands that cause these dark industries to exist. Finally, double blessings on the homeless. More than 700,000 men, women, children, families, senior citizens, military veterans, homeless in the United States of America, and the numbers are growing. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. So, a lot happened yesterday, as we are aware, if you're a Knicks fan. A week ago, I did some videos that talked about Mitchell Robinson leaving. And I did that because I felt very strongly he was going to leave, and I explained to you, I felt very strongly that Knicks management, from before the season was over, knew that this was going to be his last year in New York. Why? Because he's hurt a lot. They use him the best they can off the bench. They weren't going to pay him what he could be paid on the open market. They knew that. So James Dolan, and I wish y'all would start trying to blame him. It was James Dolan that hired Leon Rose. It was James Dolan that approved all the moves Leon Rose did. Y'all should stop blaming him. James Dolan, I was mad at him at first, but it was a sucker play. Dolan did what he did on WFAN so everybody could hear it. It took all the pressure off Leon Rose. I'm not going over the second apron. I'm never going to do that. It didn't even sound right coming from the man that would spend money on anything and wasted many millions of dollars. It didn't sound right, but then it made sense. He ran interference for Leon. So understand that before you start downing him. He did that purposely. Now, it is not uncommon, and I like to reference the Golden State Warriors, definitely the Boston Celtics. When they win chips, you got to pay players, okay? You got to pay the best players. You got to put it together. It takes a lot, as we know as Knicks fans. So it's not unusual for them to go over the second apron and pay the tax. It's not unusual. What you don't want to do, which I mentioned why we got Karl Anthony Towns, is you don't want to be a team that hasn't even gotten to the championship round and you paying the tax. You don't mind paying after you win to keep your team together, like the Golden State Warriors. But you don't want to have to pay after you lose or don't make it. And that is why Boston, after they won the chip, they let Kristaps Porzingis walk. They let Jrue Holiday walk. They let Al Horford walk. That was them trying to save on the tax money. Now, the Knicks being the champions are going to face the same situation. So all of us, I would say any Knicks fan that's real Knicks fan, wanted the Knicks to run it back. Like, we just want to chip with this team, run it back. And that's the natural inclination of all of us. But last week, it became apparent to me the Knicks weren't going to run it back because Mitchell Robinson wasn't going to be there. Okay. So at that point, I myself began planning, okay, what would be their next move? Okay. And I thought Ariel Hukporti would move up into the rotation and they would have to have somebody battle. They wouldn't just hand it to him. He's in his third year, but let somebody battle him for the backup center spot. So that's what I was thinking. I knew Hukporti was going to be an unrestricted free agent, but I also knew he was now going to be playing a rotation role on a championship team. So I thought, okay, technically another team could take him or offer him more money. But I didn't think he would take it because he's on the championship team. He plays a good year with the Knicks, builds up more, and now he's going to really get paid in his next contract. But as we see, he left yesterday. Now, why? The Knicks did not extend the qualifying offer to Hukporti because it was about 2.7 million. And I'm looking at somebody on X trying to put together, which they didn't, trying to put together what the tax and the apron is, and it was all wrong. And all I said was, these numbers are incorrect. I could see it. He had all these numbers wrong. I don't know where he got it from. So then he comes back to me and says, well, they're close enough. Let me explain for y'all. When you're trying to stay under the second apron, close enough ain't good enough. You got to stay under the second apron. Period. Okay? So Mitch wasn't going to be there. And then, as many of you know, I did a live broadcast, I think Monday or Tuesday, where we went together through the Knicks situation, and we came to the conclusion that came out the next day, they had about $9 million to spend before they crossed the second apron. We knew that Mitchell Robinson was going to get more than that. So Mitchell Robinson, we know he got 3 years, $47 million, almost $16 million a year. So we weren't going to be able to do that, no matter what they did. They could have traded Deuce, traded Kolick, traded Daddy 8. They weren't going to get $16 million. That wasn't going to happen. So that was off the table. And then at that time, we came to the understanding that you have to have 14-man roster or you're going to get penalized by the league. So the Knicks had 11 guys under contract. Need 3 more, and you got $9 million. So you could get 3 more with $9 million. $3 million apiece, $2.5 million apiece, you could do that. Ariel Hukporti was going to get 2.7 in the qualifying offer. They could have did that. But they decided to wait because if he signed with the Knicks as a free agent, they could have did a Diawara type deal. He could have started at 2.3, 2.4. That's saving $300,000 or $400,000. That's counting, right? That's why close enough ain't good enough. So at the same time, we must understand, brothers and sisters in Knicks Nation, a championship team gets poached. No team is trying to help the Knicks. So I think it was common knowledge. In fact, it was coming out in all kind of reports that Mitchell Robinson was leaving. We shouldn't be, and some of y'all was really, we're still hoping Dolan changes his mind. Come on, man, move on. He ain't doing that. It was all purposely done. He's not changing his mind. And we had people all the way up to yesterday, maybe he'll change his mind. No, he's not changing his mind. Stop holding your breath for what's not going to happen. So I already mentally moved on from Mitchell Robinson last week when I realized he wasn't coming back. So I'm now looking at, and that's what I did the video with Diabate. I did the video with Missy, telling the possibilities, the realistic possibilities the Knicks can approach. Some people were mentioning still Kevon Looney and mentioning Nick Richards. All right, but they're not the guys. They're not as good as the guys I'm mentioning. Everybody was talking about Kevon Looney's 3 chips. Yes, he was part of 3 championship teams. That doesn't mean he could play for the New York Knicks, and that doesn't mean he could be ready to play at a high level right now. That's past. Nice. But some of y'all get past and make it present. Like LeBron going to be 41, 42. He's trying to act like this is 32-year-old LeBron. No, it's not. It's never going to be. Okay? So you got to look at things more holistically here. So we're dealing with a backup center. So when Philly realized the Knicks weren't going to pay him, that is Hukporti, 2.7, they went up $300,000. They paid him 3.04 for 1 year, not even a long-term deal, 1 year. And Hukporti jumped at it because he wants the extra $300,000. I know it sounds crazy, but that's what happened. So now our arch rival, Philadelphia, not only gets Jaylen Brown, but they get Ariel Hukporti. It didn't really even matter about how good Hukporti's going to be because it hurt our rotation. That's all that mattered. And then Boston, now, I'm sure other teams would have offered whatever to get Mitchell Robinson. Boston offered the most. He took the money. We care about hating Boston. Mitchell Robinson cares about another type of green. Benjamins. That's what he cares about. Okay? So that's what happened. Get over the fact that he's in Boston. That's what's happened. To me, it's like a lot of people get off on holding on to grudges, holding on to anger. That shortens your lifespan. Let that mess go. Mitchell Robinson gone. So now I'm looking at the Knicks roster presently. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, the Knicks have 11 guys under contract. I'm looking at BSPN, even though they almost never get the rotations correct. Almost never. But I'm looking at at just to see the roster. You got the starting five. Then you got Muhammad Diawara, Landry Shamet, Deuce McBride, Jose Alvarado, Trey Jemison. You got 5 guys right there. Then you still got, because Cahill is going to go back to Germany. They've already announced that. Ian Begley already said he's not going to be here, even though he said that in the conference. He's going to work real hard, but he's going to be learning his game in Germany. Then you still got Tyler Kolek, and they got Tyler Kolek as the 4th option behind Brunson, McBride, Alvarado. That's not correct. And so then you still got Daddier, you got Dylan Jones. So you got some things, but the rotation right now, as far as you go by the rotation last year, you're starting 5. Deuce McBride, Landry Shamet, right? And probably Muhammad Diawara. They signed him first. So you're probably going to have 3 guys set in your rotation, okay? Shamet, McBride, and Diawara. So you got that in your rotation. Now, you need a backup 5. Now, BSPN is making Diawara the backup 5. Now, I'm not saying he can't guard 5s. He can, but I wouldn't make him the backup 5. But I will say something right now that may shock some of you. I don't mind Trey Jemison as the 3rd string 5. I don't mind that. I think he can play a 3rd string 5 spot for the New York Knicks. Okay? He's going to be 27, 28 years old. 27. He's going to be 27 this coming season. So he's still a young man. He's not NBA level starter, but he can play in the NBA. And we don't need all-star, the 3rd string center. So I think that would be fine. But I believe the Knicks still need a backup 5. A Diawara can guard 5s, but you don't want that to be his primary purpose in the rotation. So right now they're looking. Okay, so we talked about Kevon Looney. I think he's a little over the hill. We talked about Nick Richards, and Nick Richards is solid. I'm not saying he's not solid, but what we would like to get is somebody that makes an impact in the second unit. I don't see that as Nick Richards. He's serviceable. Okay? So he's serviceable if we need to get him, and we could get him maybe at the minimum, because anybody we get is going to be the minimum. Okay? So I think we could do a little better than serviceable. And the guys I mentioned, the Diabates, the Mises, and the Boners are better than serviceable in my view, and especially when you're counting their upside. All 3 of those young men can not only play in a rotation now, they're going to get better. They got 2-3 more years of upside to develop. See, Mitchell Robinson is at his height right now. There's no more upside for Mitchell Robinson. The free throws, the injuries, the everything, the rim protection, the offensive rebounding, that's him now. That's who he is. That's who he's going to be. But the guys I just mentioned all have upside, all of them. That's my only concern, because no team is if they don't have to, is going to let go of a guy with upside if they can keep him, because they want the upside to work for them. So Charlotte has 5 guys that could play the 5. They just signed Naz Reid. Naz Reid's a 5. Naz Reid's a 5. That's a stretch 5. He can shoot from the 3-point line. He could also play the 4. So they just got Naz Reid. They got the other kid, Kyle Brenner. They got him. They got guys that could play the 5. They actually had to move Nick Richards because they had too many 5s. But the Charlotte Hornets have Steinbach. They just signed Diabate, Kyle Brenner, Naz Reid, P.J. Hall. They got all of them at the 5. They're not going to be able to keep all of them. P.J. Hall, I'm not going to count. The kid they just drafted, Steinbach, I'm not going to count. They're not going to trade a guy they just got, right? So Kyle Brenner, they drafted. Steinbach, they drafted. They traded for Naz Reid. That leaves Diabate. Okay? So Diabate can be had for the right price. And they're going to demand the right price, because this particular summer, I would call it a summer of the 5. Everybody wants to have Karl Anthony Towns. See, they're trying to copy the Knicks. They're trying to poach the Knicks and copy the Knicks. So they done poached us of our 5s. Okay, now they're going to try to copy the Knicks. You cannot copy Karl Anthony Towns. I've been saying that. You cannot do it. So what you're trying to do then is diminish the bench as much as you can. The Knicks are very close to having just as good, if not a better bench than last year. If they were to get Diabate, game on. Game on. Okay. The top of my rating in my board, the top of the guys that are available in my board is Misi. I've been saying that. I don't care what anybody was saying about Looney or Richards or Mo Wagner. Misi, because of his 23-year-old age, his athletic ability coming into his third year, and having a ton of upside still. So Misi is the guy. Now, the thing is, New Orleans just re-signed 38-year-old DeAndre Jordan. That's a veteran thing. They just re-signed him. 38 years old. I was a little surprised at that, but that's what they did. And I'm noticing, out of the desperation to catch the Knicks, a lot of teams are doing some foolish things, like Portland paying Robert Williams III $44 million over 3 years. And I heard, I don't know if it's true because it's just a rumor, but I heard Boston is planning on starting Mitch. You and I both know how that's going to end. So to me, they're doing this stuff out of desperation. To me, the biggest rival for the Knicks right now are twofold. It's going. I mean, everybody's thinking Miami, right? Because of Giannis. Okay, I'll give you that. But Philly is going to be tough, and Indiana. Once Indiana gets Halliburton back healthy, they're going to pick up where they left off. And they went and got Zubac already last year in preparation for the return of Halliburton. They're going to be tough as nails, man. They're Rick Carlisle is a great coach. I've always had respect for him. And if you look at his record, every place he has gone, he has made that team better. That's a coach. Like, that's what I liked about Tibbs. Say what you want about Tibbs. In all of the 20 years he's been a head coach in the NBA, he's only had 2 seasons where he wasn't over 500, no matter what the team was. Okay? That's a good coach right there. See? So not always winning the champ is make a good coach, but where does they go and what do they do with the team that they get? Rick Carlisle, no matter what, Dallas, Indiana, he made them teams better. He's got Indiana at a really high level, okay? So they're going to be a chief rival. Philly is going to be a chief rival. You just switched. I was never big on PG-13 at this stage of his career. When PG-13 was in Indiana, he was the man. After he broke his leg and came back, he still was the man. But when he went to Oklahoma City and then when he went to the Clippers, there was a decline, which is why it didn't work out. Then he goes to Philly and they're paying him all this. See, people get paid for past and reputation, but he really, the actual physical delivery wasn't there. And they paying him all that money on reputation, 40, 50 million a year. So now Philly is the real threat because Philly just upgraded big time. You got Jaylen Brown with a chip on his shoulder in his prime. They're going to be tough as hell. So you're talking about, and then they went and got that defensive dude, Dean Wade. So they got Wade, Brown. You already got Edgecombe is a revelation. And then you got, of course, the all-star Tyrese Maxey. You got Barlow, who I always thought was much better than people thought. He was very adept at playing against the Knicks. Then Bona, Ariel Hukporti. They got a nice 5 rotation. The tough crew is going to be Philly. And their bench, like any other team that wants to get a championship, their bench is going to determine how far they go. Not the starting 5. People look at the starting 5. The Knicks got probably the best starting 5 in the NBA because nobody could guard Karl-Anthony Towns and nobody could really guard one-on-one Jalen Brunson. So you really got the best starting 5 in the NBA right now. They're just not, all NBA all the time and all that and MVP and all that. But they rival Oklahoma City and San Antonio with the best starting. And obviously we won the chip, so we're the best starting 5. But the starting 5 is important, but you got to have a bench. When the Knicks closed out San Antonio, Shamet was on the floor. Mitchell Robinson was on the floor. These are bench pieces. They were on the floor. If you can close out a championship game with pieces from your bench, you got a bench. Okay? Mitchell Robinson got the rebound, throw it out to Shamet. Shamet threw it to OG. OG was fouled. That was the game right there. So that you got to have a bench. So right now, Barlow, Bona, Hukporti, Justin Edwards, that's your bench. Some guy named that they drafted a rookie, Phylon. I never trust rookies. I'm trying to win a chip. Y'all know that. But that's going to be the Achilles heel of any team. That's what makes Indiana tough. Indiana, Indiana got a bench, man. They've been had a bench. Led by our own Mobb Deep dude, Obi Toppin. See? So they got Obi. They got Jarice Walker. Now they just signed Kelly Oubre to their bench. TJ McConnell. They got a bench, man. Ben Shepherd. They got a bench. So Indiana's going to be tough. Now, the Knicks need to get our bench together. Starting five-wise, we good. We just need a bench. We're just missing an impactful guy in that second unit at the 5. I don't mind Jemison taking Ariel Hukporti's third string spot. Okay. Jemison and Hukporti's got more upside, for sure. But we ain't missing much. It's a third string we're talking about. So we're trying to get a backup 5 right now. Somebody that makes some impact. And the 3 young men I mentioned, Diabate, Misi, and Bona, are that type of dudes. Philly can lose Bona if they want to. That would be a dumb move to let us get Bona because they just got Ariel Hukporti and they got Barlow. I mean, Philly could do that, but I doubt if they let Bona go. He got too much upside. Somebody said, you're wrong on Bona. I don't know what the hell he was talking about. I like Bona. Coming out of UCLA, the boy is good. So he's going to be better. That's what I'm saying. I'm looking at youth and upside. You imagine you get somebody coming off the Knicks bench in that second unit that got motor, youth, 7-foot wingspan, defense. You good. See, you good. And that's all we're missing right now. So Hukporti hurt me. I wasn't expecting that. But I do expect, I forgot, anybody that's available that a team can get from your rotation or possible rotation, they're going to try to poach them, even if they don't need them. Okay, and that's the Hukporti situation. So Hukporti, I think, made a mistake. He took $3 million. He wanted to get a couple $100 or more. But if he was thinking long term, he could have waited and probably got a long term deal after this 1 year with the Knicks. He probably could have got a longer term deal and made more money. But okay, that's what he did. So now we're looking for a guy. Okay, we're looking for a guy. And I mentioned 3 guys. To me, it's those 3. There's another guy somebody mentioned. Oh, God, what was the boy name? Somebody mentioned, I think he played, was it San Antonio? There was another guy, too. I forgot his name. 7-foot guy, decent player, solid, serviceable. We could get a serviceable guy. To me, Nick Richards and this guy, I forgot his name. They're both serviceable, okay? They're not going to be that impactful in the second unit. You're going to be more dependent in your second unit on guys like Deuce, guys like Shamet. You're going to be really dependent on them to be more impactful in your second unit. Diawara. That's why these are important. Everybody has their favorites, but we need somebody to make a winning impact now. And that's why a lot of people are so delusional in Knick Nation. They can't decide. They can't decipher what that looks like. It looks like Mitchell Robinson, or it looks like Muhammad Diawara. It looks like Misi. It looks like Bona. That's what it looks like. But you got to see something like that. Now, you can get serviceable. Thing I like about Richards, he's serviceable. He is serviceable. And like I said, I would not mind getting him if we had to. But I'm just saying there's at least 3 better options. Okay, it's not like I'm looking for somebody that's going to help us win. I don't know what some people are looking at when they try to, tell you about this guy or that guy. I'm looking for somebody to help us win. And the 3 young men that I named was put into our Mob Deep and bring that that Mob Deep was just like you putting a turbocharge on the engine. That's what I'm saying. Versus you having an engine that come from the factory, Richards. Okay, you can get that. But we're talking about turbocharge. The second unit, you bring some youth and energy in there, and that does it. So, and this is again, we have to trade a player. People keep mentioning Deuce McBride. I keep telling you, I don't know why they're doing it because he's making 3.9. That's the whole point of keeping him. But anyway, there's haters out there that just don't like Deuce McBride as a player, and they've been hating him since when he came out of West Virginia. They still doing it. I don't listen to them. To me, it's really Daddy A. He's the future. He's $3 million. You could use that to get a Diabate. You could use that with money and picks to get a Misi. You could use that to get a Bona. But that's the deals that the Don is now doing behind the scenes. We'll see how it ends up. But the Knicks are going to get somebody serviceable or better at that backup 5. That's no problem. Also, let's not forget, there's always a lot of veteran dudes that came into the league part-time, made a cup of coffee and, hasn't been able to break through because of the competition in the league. Hukporti was really similar to that. He from Germany, went to Australia to play, got hurt, never really came around because of his getting injured, right? But now with the Knicks, he went to another level. So there could be somebody like that in the summer league. So watch that as well. You don't know. Somebody asked me, well, could they get the Knicks can get a player from any place on the planet Earth. And you got to understand, we got Diawara, we got Hukporti from overseas. How did we do that? We got Daddier from overseas. How did they do that? Well, Perrin, you don't think he's not working now. He's still working. He's going to find somebody, and they're going to bring him in at the minimum. Who it is, we're going to find out. But now we got at least 3 solid options. We got if we're playing spades, right? I got 3 and 2 possibles right now. There's I mentioned Richards. I forgot the other guy's name, but somebody mentioned him yesterday. It made sense. He's a serviceable guy, solid guy, pretty young, not real young, like 25, 26. He's serviceable. We can get a serviceable guy in there, but we'd like to get somebody with more impact, energy, if we could. And that's what I'm saying. They need to find. And let me tell you one more thing before we go today. Don't underestimate the fact that every center on planet Earth playing basketball somewhere is thinking, there's an opportunity in New York. And don't underestimate how hard somebody out there is working to try to get that opportunity that's going to benefit us. Okay? We'll talk soon. So